It began without the usual Hollywood fanfare, without the rolling parade of red carpet premieres or the calculated blitz of talk show couches. In June, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, released the first vintage from her lifestyle brand, the 2024 Napa Valley wine, with the kind of quiet confidence that only someone certain of her product's worth could afford. No gaudy countdown clocks, no paparazzi-fed launch party, no desperate wave of celebrity endorsements flooding social media in a contrived show of force. Just a discreet announcement, slipped into a brand newsletter and quietly placed on the official website. And yet, the response was nothing short of seismic. Within 59 minutes, the first release was gone. Not one bottle lingered. It was as though the marketplace, often fickle, often cynical, and rarely forgiving, had been holding its breath for something worth saying yes to. A second release on August 5th only confirmed what the first had hinted. The demand was not a fluke. The second drop vanished as quickly as it appeared, making it clear that Meghan's Napa Valley creation had pierced through every layer of noise and found its audience, not because of celebrity mystique, but because of merit. But then came the moment that turned a sold-out launch into an undeniable triumph. Vogue stepped in, not with the soft focus glow of a fan account or the bias of a brand partner, but with the cool detachment of an institution that has shaped taste for over a century. They didn't simply write a puff piece. They brought in Jordan Salcido, a name that means something in the wine world, an award-winning sommelier whose resume includes the exalted 11 Madison Park and the gastronomic powerhouse Momofuku, a palate sharpened by years of working at the highest echelon of hospitality, a voice trusted to separate style from substance, flash from craftsmanship. Salcido swirled, sipped, considered, and then delivered a verdict that would resonate far beyond Meghan's devoted supporters. The wine, she said, was legit. Not just marketable, not just pleasant. Legit. It was well crafted and thoughtful, words that in the language of fine wine carry the weight of artistry and discipline. And then came the summation that instantly separated Meghan's bottle from the graveyard of celebrity vanity projects. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't gimmicky, it wasn't trying to be cute. In that sentence, a decade of skepticism towards celebrity ventures seemed to dissolve. Here was an assessment rooted not in the politics of public perception, but in the unflinching standards of a professional who has no reason to flatter. Vogue had not only reviewed Meghan Sussex's wine, it had held it up to the unforgiving light of impartial scrutiny, and the wine had emerged untarnished. What Meghan had achieved in that moment was more than a positive review. It was an unassailable credential. For years, detractors had been eager to label her every move as superficial, every venture as opportunistic. But with one blind taste test, the conversation shifted. This was not a bottle selling because of her name. It was a bottle that could stand and sell without it. The Meghan Sussex label had stepped into the arena of fine wine and held its own against the fiercest of gatekeepers. From the very beginning, Meghan had refused to take the path of least resistance. She could have easily released a rushed blend, packaged in aspirational branding, and relied on her fame to move units. It would have sold, initially, but such a product would have withered quickly under the scrutiny of serious wine lovers. Instead, she built this 2024 Napa Valley wine with the same ethos that has marked her most enduring successes: attention to detail, respect for craft, and a refusal to insult her audience's intelligence. Every stage, from vineyard selection to bottling, was a deliberate act, informed by the belief that longevity is built on integrity, not spectacle. By the time Vogue's review dropped, the story had already travelled far beyond the confines of the wine aisle. Meghan's double sellout had been covered as a retail phenomenon, her restraint in launching it lauded as a rare show of discipline in the celebrity marketplace. But Vogue's intervention transformed the moment into something more powerful. It gave the wine an imprimatur of seriousness. In the upper circles of luxury media, where image is currency, an endorsement this clear and unqualified is rarer than a unanimous jury. The market reacted accordingly. Collectors who had dismissed the wine as a passing curiosity began making discreet inquiries. Sommeliers in Michelin-starred restaurants, some of whom had never considered stocking a bottle attached to a public figure, began to see it as a potential addition to their lists. Not because Meghan had willed it into prestige, but because the craftsmanship had earned it. And in the world of wine, a world defined by patience, heritage, and exacting standards, that kind of shift is tectonic. From the moment Jordan Salcido lifted the glass, there was a quiet expectation in the room. Those familiar with her work knew she did not flatter. She assessed. Her palate had moved through decades of vintages, her professional instincts trained to detect flaws that even experienced winemakers miss. She was not there to celebrate Meghan Sussex, she was there to evaluate a wine. And when the glass tilted toward her, when the light passed through the liquid and refracted its pale gold hue, the evaluation began. The first nose was deliberate, not a hurried sniff, but a measured inhale, a sensory handshake between sommelier and bottle. Notes unfolded, ripe stone fruit cushioned by a whisper of vanilla oak, a hint of minerality rising beneath. There was a brightness in its profile, not sharp but alive, promising balance before the first sip. This was not a wine designed to shout, it was designed to converse. The sip confirmed it. Structure without aggression, acidity that carried flavour rather than cutting it down, a finish that lingered just long enough to make you want another taste. Salcido's verdict, legit, well-crafted, thoughtful, was not given lightly. It was the distillation of a professional's entire encounter with the bottle. And when she added, it wasn't rushed, it wasn't gimmicky, it wasn't trying to be cute, she wasn't merely describing the wine, she was defining the philosophy behind it. In those words, you could read the choices Meghan had made long before this bottle ever reached a consumer. She had chosen patience over profit, process over promotion. She had chosen to respect the craft enough to avoid shortcuts. And she had chosen to let the wine's quality stand as its own marketing campaign. The irony is that in doing so, she achieved the kind of publicity most celebrity products never touch. Vogue's review wasn't a press release. It was an event. The weight of its impartiality gave it an almost judicial finality, not a suggestion, but a ruling. And because the ruling was favourable, the ripple became a wave. In Napa Valley itself, the reaction was cautious but curious. Winemakers know better than most how treacherous the path to lasting credibility can be, but they also know quality when they taste it. The fact that Meghan's wine had moved beyond the celebrity sphere into the sommelier's lexicon was significant. It meant it had survived the first, and often most brutal, round of industry gatekeeping. For the consumer, especially those who had managed to secure bottles from the June or August releases, the review felt like a private vindication. They had believed in the product before the world's oldest and most influential style Bible confirmed it. Now, owning the bottle felt a little like owning a piece of early history, the first chapter in what could be a much longer Napa Valley story. Selling out twice in less than 3 months is rare. Selling out twice and then having a world-class sommelier label your wine legit is rarer still. Having that same sommelier go on record to say it wasn't rushed, wasn't gimmicky, wasn't trying to be cute in the pages of Vogue is almost unheard of. And through it all, the core of the story remained unchanged. This was a wine that had earned its place. No amount of marketing sleight of hand could replicate the simple, irrefutable fact that it tasted good, not just to fans but to professionals trained to find fault. In the end, perhaps that is why this moment matters. Not because of the speed of the sellouts, impressive as they were, not because of the Vogue feature, historic as it felt, but because Meghan Sussex had set out to create something real, something that could hold its own in the most competitive wine market in America, and she had succeeded. The Duchess had not only entered the arena, she had raised the bar, and the world, glass in hand, had taken notice. To all my curious Sussex family, thank you all for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like and put a comment. Bye-bye, see you in our next episode.